Right, today we got a 2022 Corvette in the shop. First one in the shop. We got RJ chugging along on a Nissan over here. So we're gonna get started on this one. Let me walk you through our process and how we do everything here. And you'll get to see us do the disassembly and then reassembly of this car. So we got it pulled in. I immediately walk around. We start shooting a video on this. So do a good all-around video. My opinion on a pre-inspection video, a good pre-inspection video should last close to 4 minutes. That's what I've found. If it doesn't last about 4 minutes, it's not thorough enough. But we want to get a peek at all our wheels. See, like I was walking around, if I hadn't have deliberately made an effort to pay attention to the wheels, I would have missed the curb rash on that wheel right there. So, and that's stuff we're looking for whenever we're doing these pre-inspection videos. The last thing we want to do is get this car pulled back around and then we're getting accused of damaging a $1,200 wheel. Now my camera abilities aren't near as good as Tony's camera abilities over here. Always make an effort to get all four wheels specifically in some frames by themselves, because the amount of cars that come in with curb rash is it's crazy. But particularly on the passenger side, that one's got one on the driver's side, but normally this passenger side rear wheel is chewed up, and then the front side as well. So I'm gonna go back around to the driver's side here in a minute. And I made sure this door cleared all the way when we got in here. Whenever we're working on cars in the shop, we like to be able to make sure both doors can get opened up all the way. So I get our panels real good. Get the inside of our kick panels. Want to check for anything going on there. Seats. And then dash and interior around dash and headliner. Then I'm gonna get this front corner of the car right here. Go do the same thing on our driver's side. Oh, that's a hair. Right now I'm at 3 minutes and 30 seconds on my video. So I said to really get a good video and get an idea of everything that's going on in the car, it should take you about 4 minutes. Get our steering wheel real good. Center console. You know, if there's marks anywhere where people leave their elbows and arms, you want to look at that real good. You want to look at the edges of your seat sliding in and out. Kick panel. Kick panel on the driver's side is super important, like this chrome right here. Not this chrome, but this aluminum trim. It's got scratching through here. And that's just normal, everyday use, getting in and out of the car. Next step, we got our diagnostic tablet. We'll come around. And before I waste all my time doing paint protection on this car, oh, here's a neat little thing to note. Whenever you're trying to turn the ignition on in any GM product, like full ignition on, not in accessory mode, you press the on button down and hold it until the light turns green. If you hit the power button and the light turns yellow, it's in accessory mode. So you gotta turn it back off, press the button down, and hold it until it turns green. So, ignition on, we're gonna run a pre-scan on this car. Of course, I didn't turn my tablet on first, so now we gotta wait for it to power up. No gloves or safety glasses today. Unless we really need it. This should be pretty cake though. Walk you through what we got going on here. Our RO number is 29572. Ooh, dyslexic. So I've actually got a pre-scan in here for this RO number on this car before. As it come in one time before, and we had an aftermarket part here in the shop for it, and I think the customer, they decided to go with OEM instead. So we wound up ordering an OEM part and rescheduling them. I think they were a little confused. They assumed the insurance company would just pay for OEM just because they decided to do a windshield and it was a Corvette. But the insurance company is going to try to put an aftermarket glass in your car unless for some reason the aftermarket's not available. And they're even going to fight us if there's quality issues. So here's a good example. If we install a part, or we don't want to install a part because we feel there's a quality issue and we know we're going to get an issue with calibration on it, the insurance company will say, well, you have to install that bad part, attempt the recalibration, and when it fails, then we'll approve OEM and we'll only pay you the cost difference in the part. We're not going to pay for a second labor, a second recalibration, a second pre and post scan. So that's a little bit of what we deal with on our end. So we got some U codes in this system. They looks like they're all historic. All of your manufacturers, I'm not going to say all, but all of your domestic manufacturers, they all basically have a policy, all the U codes that you see when you do a diagnostic scan on it. If there is no symptom associated with the U code, which is a module code, normally a U code is considered a bad code. It's a code that, hey, we need to address an issue here. If there is no symptoms associated with U codes, ignore them. So it's just due to new cars and the way these modules all communicate with each other. They communicate via low voltage, and man, there's a bunch of things that can interrupt the signal and cause it to throw codes. So I gotta find there it is. I got a button open this one. You all right, Tony? Trying to fall on us here. So, all right. I'm gonna start doing some tape first. We're gonna tape off some things.